Hello, podcast listeners. You are now listening to the Coffee, Health, and Science podcast. I'm your host, Jordan River, and I want to thank you for tuning in again today. Before we get started, as always, share the show, spread the Coffee, Health, and Science podcast, and make sure to hit subscribe so you can see all the episodes when they drop. Make sure to check out puritycoffee.com, of course, code CHS podcast for savings. Today we have a very special guest. I've been waiting to speak to this individual for a while. We actually met on some of my coffee travels when I was out west in Sacramento. He is the founder of Old Soul Co. He is a coffee house owner, bakery owner, and a member of the Sacramento community. So much more than that. Jason from Old Soul is on the line. What's up, Jason? Thank you for joining us.
Hey, Jordan. Thank you for having me. I've been listening to a lot of the podcasts, man. I think I might be the dumbest person who's ever been on your podcast. I appreciate that.
Well, listen, man, if you're next to Dr. Stephen Hellshine and, Dr. Sanjeev Chopra, I don't think that's a big knock, but we're really appreciative to have you here, man, because you really have done something special. First of all, oldsoulco.com is where you can find the website. Again, Sacramento based. I was just out there and it was funny. I was speaking with Jason and we were just talking about really his story, which is incredible and reflects so many of the stories of coffee houses and bakeries and just really small community businesses that tend to these community needs, meeting places. That's what you're doing here. And the story behind it's incredible. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to also talk about a little bit of a Congolese callback. You remember the recent episode where I talked about Mighty Peace Coffee. Well, Jason was the one who introduced me to them. So we've got a lot to discuss on the air today, man. Can we start with your story? When I walked into your shop, you told me an incredible story about how you guys started. You weren't even intending to sell anything, right? You were just I'll let you tell it.
Yeah. So basically, Old Soul was founded by myself and my buddy and business partner Tim Jordan. And our idea was that in 2006, we started in 2006. No one at that time in Sacramento was combining craft baked goods, craft coffee. And so we came up with the idea after one night of a lot of drinking of wine to open the first ever wholesale coffee baking company in town. And we'd be your one-stop shop, whether that was if you were a cafe, whether you were a restaurant, whether you were a grocery store. You could come to Old Soul and we'd supply you with fresh bread, fresh coffee, all sorts of services. So if you were our customer or clients, we opened on purpose in an alley, a very funky pothole, drug needle infested alley right in the heart of town. I think we were, I bet.
Is that the one I was at? It's a really cool spot.
It was very true. So in 2006, Midtown Sacramento, as they call it,
I see,
was nothing. And so we put a shingle out. And the idea was, you came here, we baked stuff from scratch. Coffee, baking is an artisan craft. And just like a cobbler 220 years ago, if we did a good job, you would find us. And so all we had was the name, our crafts, and hard work. And so the idea was that me and Tim really wouldn't have any employees, maybe a couple, a delivery driver here or two, but back in the day, we did it all of ourselves.
Sure.
And so, I set up a coffee bar only to train other people's employees or to taste what I was roasting. And Tim had a one-man bakery going, and he had a couple of wheeling racks. And we were really lucky in 2006 right away to get a couple of pretty big name wholesale accounts in Sacramento, and people started tasting stuff. So first of all, I should backtrack. We weren't intended to be open to the public. So we didn't have air conditioning. We didn't have toilets. It was a warehouse.
Sure.
And it was in a back alley. And
Wholesale.
So it was a good location, turns out, but it was, we put out a community table, and we had a couple ratty couches. And if you were our client, you were a restaurant or a cafe or whatever, you could come in and it was your space. It was like you could come in and have your manager meetings. You could come in and have, your own staff party. It was this hidden back alley speakeasy. And
Yeah, you instantly make it cool. people start poking their head in. What's going on in here?
yeah, yeah. So we and of course it's outside. We're coffee roasting. We're baking. It smells good outside. couple of brave souls started like walking in, and we open in the summer. So Sacramento is 100 degrees, 90, 100 degrees almost every day in the summer.
Right.
Me and Tim wouldn't get in there to roast or bake until like 10 p.m., 11 p.m. We do our stuff because that was the coolest part of the day. And then we go deliver in, my beat up Hyundai and Tim's like, family, car.
Minivan.
Yeah, exactly. But as we got a couple of counts, people started coming in and like just walking down, and I heard about you guys from this restaurant, this cafe, and can I get a cup of coffee? And we're like, well, no, we don't have a register. We don't have employees. It's 1:00 in the morning. Why are you even walking down this alley? Because it's scary as hell. And so after getting into a couple more good accounts, more and more people just started walking in, and now it's in like the fall, winter, and so me and Tim are having to do more deliveries. You can roast at 10 in the morning. It's not 125 degrees inside, and it was like one day we were working like our 100th straight 15-hour day each, and it was like midnight or 1:00 in the morning, and we had the roll-up door open, and a person came in, and it was like the 90th person of that day, and hey, can I get a muffin? Can I get a cup of coffee? And no, we said no again, and the person left, and Tim yelled over to me, and excuse my language, I don't know if I'm allowed to swear on this podcast or not, but
no FCC
but basically Tim from the ovens 100 yards away yelled over to me. He's like, Jason, I don't know about you, but I'm fucking tired, and we're sort of broke. And people come in every day and ask to give us money. We should probably say fucking yes. And I yelled over to him over like the roast. I'm like, dude, I agree. And so literally we decided at like 1:00 in the morning, all right, tomorrow when we go to bed, we're going to say yes. And so he went to bed at like 2:00 in the morning. We shut down the garage door. I think we go back there at like 5 in the morning to start doing deliveries and whatnot. And he brought in like a vase from his wife, Jill. And we're like, okay, dude, I'm going to make a pot of coffee. I'm going to go to the store. I'm going to get a couple of cups, sleeveless cups. We'll get half and half and just make an extra sheet pan, wheel it out. And we're just going to say, everything's $2. Make your own change. Help yourself. You have to pour your own coffee out of the vessel. You have to pick your own muffin. You have to make your own change. And it was the honor jar was born. And
the honor jar.
And we had no hours. So it was literally almost like the spite thing. Like, if we're here, yeah, come on in, give us money. And if we're not here, we're not here.
Come back later, I guess. Yeah, this is the story
exactly
that baffled me and is really cool, man. It's like a natural evolution, and it's so. We were talking about this a little bit off air. I'll see if I can articulate it. Ever since the birth of coffee, like, we've been doing these coffee history explorations. This like thread of the coffee house and also the bakery together, both really have run through society, and it's just it's like a magnet for people. It is as much a cornerstone as society as anything else, in my opinion. This is how I would articulate it. I think it's as much of a cornerstone as the courthouse and the post office. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's so funny that it happened this way, but it's not surprising because it's history, like, repeating itself again. I don't know if I'm getting too meta for you, or if that made sense.
No, I think it's exactly right. I mean, coffee houses are, in my mind, coffee houses, bakery, they're the coolest thing ever invented. It's really just it's a community gathering place. They used to call them like two penny or penny universities. It's such a melting pot.
Oh wow, I like that. I hadn't heard
that. It's affordable. It's a gathering place. Everyone's accepted. You could have, and it's always been. It's a place where people can get together, and they should be safe spaces, and I think they are. And it's just a natural, as you say, it's a natural gathering point for humanity. Has been since it's been started.
Yeah,
and and that was part of. It wasn't part of the vision to actually have people there for me and Tim, but it was a natural passion for him and baking and food and me and coffee to say these things should be paired at all time. And we saw a need in Sacramento that under one roof there wasn't that yet.
That is so cool, man. You really did accomplish it. It's a beautiful space. If any listeners are in the area, of course, check it out. Old Soul. There's 2 locations, right? Am I wrong about that?
4 locations.
We
have 4 locations now. Yeah. Hopefully, a couple more in the next year or two. You know, we're still pretty bullish on the future, even though you get bombarded every day with negativity. We think there's still a lot of positivity out there in the world, so
I love that.
We're hoping to do 1 or 2 more projects in the next year or two, for sure.
Really cool. Well, I mean, I guess back to the story, you fast forward and look what you've created now. I mean, this is a hip spot. It was absolutely, it was the epitome of the bakery, coffee house, fine food, fine coffee. You've got the processing right there, which you were showing me beans. You were showing me all sorts of machines. Really, really cool. And you're doing a service for the Sacramento community. I spoke to you. Again, maybe we're getting a little personal here off air, and I was saying, man, why are you staying in California? Businesses are taking such a hit. It's not easy. Businesses are fleeing California as fast as they can. And I asked Jason, why are you sticking around? And basically you just said, it's you wouldn't have it any other way. You love Sacramento. That's what you told me, right? Is that you wouldn't leave because you love Sacramento so much.
Yeah. So Tim is born and raised in Sacramento, and not exactly in the nicest part of Sacramento, but he has such a true passion and love for Sacramento. It's infectious. And I am from a really small steel town right outside of Pittsburgh. And, it's a type of town where my grandma lived 3 doors down. My aunt lived next block. My dad's grandma lived like 8 doors down. And, their parents graduated from my school. My parents graduated from my school, and it was a very blue collar place. And so, I never traveled west of the Mississippi until I was 20 years old, or 20 years old. Yeah. And I did AmeriCorps. It was like Peace Corps in America. And after college, and I got lucky enough to get sent out to San Diego.
Oh boy!
And so I stayed on a old military base, and I think I got there like November 5th, and I found myself sitting on Sunset Cliffs on Thanksgiving. It was the first Thanksgiving I had ever been away from home. And it was also November, 20 something. And I'm sitting on this cliff looking over the ocean. It was like 70 degrees. I'll never forget it, man. I called my parents and I'm like, God damn. I think if you want to meet me or see me again, you're probably going to have to come out to California.
There is something
because I don't think
that.
I don't think I'm coming home, even though I love Pittsburgh.
You're so
And
right, because it's like
yeah,
crap back in the East Coast, or where I live in the Midwest. It's the crappiest time of year. You went to San Diego,
mhm.
and you're like, wait a second, people
I
live
didn't know
like
this
this.
existed.
I didn't
Yeah.
know this existed exactly.
So anyway, I found myself after a couple years moving to Sacramento, and we opened. I opened a place in Sacramento. I think I moved to Sacramento in like 2002. And in Sacramento in 2002, it was sort of again. I'm a Pittsburgh kid, so or East Coast kid. I'm living in Sacramento in 2001, 2002, and it is at that time for California probably pretty backwater, I guess. But I'm living in California still, and I'm like 25 years old, 24 years old at this time. And I'm like, dude, why don't people like Sacramento as they should? Like Sacramento is actually pretty cool. And again, I come from a background where it's Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh people will tell you, dude, we're the best city in the world. We're better than Paris. There's just such pride. And I'm like, that's the only thing Sacramento's lacking is pride. And, fast forward all these years later, and I think Sacramento does have pride, and California is tough to do business in. And we think about, I always think about coming home and doing something in Pittsburgh. I got a 4-year-old nephew and tons of family and friends back here. But Sacramento really is an unbelievable city. I call it a big small town. It is
Feels that
not.
way.
I've been throughout the world. I have been in typical non-COVID years. I travel 2 months out of the year to our farmers. I've been blessed to be in a lot of different cities in the United States, and I love the U.S. I love different cities. Sacramento is a gem, man. I really believe that. Sacramento is. I'm almost like now. I feel like I'm a Sacramento Pittsburgh hybrid, and I would say to anyone to their face, like, dude, Sacramento's cooler than your city, no doubt about it.
Oh man, I love it.
So
I totally agree. I lived in California, and I totally agree. And more importantly, I love to see that passion in the local establishments like that. Like you guys make the city. People like you are what make up a city to someone who comes to visit. You understand what I'm saying? So I just want to express my gratitude for that. You did mention something though. We have to move to coffee here, and you said something in passing. I got to dig in on. You go to visit farmers a lot of the time. I assume you mean going to meet with the origins of these coffee beans. Can you tell me about some of your travels? Can you tell me about some of the most unforgettable experiences that you've had on coffee farms, where you were, what coffees you were tasting, all of that?
yeah, of course, man. So when Tim and I founded Old Soul, one of our mottos was, if we don't make it ourselves, we want to know those who do. And we only want to partner with the best of the best. And they need to match our passion of what we do. So it's not really easy, but it's easier to match that in the Sacramento Valley, which has unbelievable farmers that are producing all types of things, nuts, produce, lettuces. I don't think people understand. Sacramento is unbelievable in its location. That's obviously a lot harder to do in coffee. So the idea was to always be a direct. We want to know our farmers, man. We want to know where are we getting this Costa Rica coffee, where are we getting
Wow.
this Guatemala coffee. And again, I'm a Pittsburgh dude who's 6-7 years into just feeling like I'm on top of the world because I crossed the Mississippi.
Now you're in Costa Rica.
So the next step is like my first origin trip was to Ethiopia.
Whoa.
And I'm like 20. I probably am at this time. I'm probably about like 30 years old. I'm 47 now. Maybe 32 years old. And I'm in Ethiopia, and I'm this Rochester, Pennsylvania kid in Ethiopia, and I'm in the the heart of the founding of Coffee Lane and the amazing people. And from there, yeah, it just got to be where that is the mission. We at Old Soul, and the vision from the beginning was, if we don't do it, we want to know who does. We want to partner with the best, and we want to partner with passionate people. Passionate people, in my mind, are always the best people. And life is short. So we've been blessed, and I've been blessed that we basically have like 9 or 10 different coffee farmers, producers that we buy from every year. And it's not just a transaction. I've seen their kids go from 5-year-olds to teenagers.
Aww.
And we have a connection, and
Cool,
it's great for them, because they know this is not a fickle buyer. We're doing this, every year, no matter COVID, not COVID, floods, not floods. Like, if you have coffee, you know that Old School's getting it and buying it, and that just leads to so many good. Again, these are the best of the best coffee farmers in the world, in my opinion. And so, hey, they come to me or Tim and Old Soul and like, hey, we want to do this experiment, dude, we're in. So it really is like, it's a family.
Wow. That is really cool. You talked about the trip to Ethiopia. What kind of coffees were you trying on these travels? What is your favorite region for coffee? Maybe that's a better way to phrase it.
Man, that's like picking
Yeah.
picking kids, dude.
Maybe just your recent favorites.
Yeah. We have. I have a couple of really passion projects that we do every year, and I would say these passion projects, why they're passion projects, isn't because the coffee is better than another. I would say the passion projects, like the Catracha Coffee Project in Honduras, St. Helena, Honduras, the Mighty Peace Project, which is our newest, that we tasted together in Democratic Republic of Congo.
So unique that coffee.
It's just bigger than one farmer. We're talking about impacting a village. We're talking about impacting a region. And that's what it boils down to, as you said earlier, coffee and cafes and bakery, things that people do every day. It's such an economic engine.
Yes.
That we don't talk about much. I'm back here in Ohio, and I think gas is like $3.25 or $3.40. It's something like $3.25, $3.40, and people are freaking out. And I'm on Cleveland News or whatever at my sister's house, and it might get up to $4 a gallon nationwide next year. And we don't talk about the same in coffee. Like, coffee prices might get up to $2.25 or something.
Don't get me started,
year.
Man. Yeah, I mean, we just did a breakdown. I'm sure you understand this as well as anybody. It's because we don't pay for it at the cup. We pay for gas at the pump. We don't pay for coffee at the cup. The cup price remains the same, and it shouldn't. The cup price needs to change because it's the farmers who get effed in this, and it's the producers who end up, cutting corners in this. And if we would just pay a couple cents more when needed to, that's where we should be paying. You're absolutely right, though. And what you said about the economic driver is so true.
If we want to talk about like changing nations, and supporting people and doing anything, I mean, think outside of the box. Having coffee houses be, again, the center of like education a little bit. Like, hey, bring your class. I know it sounds so weird, but bring your fourth graders to a coffee house and do a field trip. I just think coffee is so, and bakeries are so cool, and cafes are so cool, that they're very overlooked.
Mm-hmm.
I know COVID's out there, and so no one's taking field trips, etc. But whenever we get back to normal, coffee is so impactful around the world.
Yes.
It doesn't get enough spotlight on it. I'd like to turn on CBS News or Hoda and Jenna or whatever, which is what I've been exposed to my mother's morning TV pattern. So I get my cup of coffee and I watch Hoda and Jenna now in the morning for 5 days. Why isn't Hoda and Jenna talking about coffee more?
Yeah, I could listen. You're preaching to the choir here. I could not agree more with that. And people like it. Listen, I do a show on it. I'll tell you right now, the numbers don't lie. People like it. I just like when people take it a step further, like you're doing, working with Mighty Peace, things like this. I know next episode we're going to get into even crazier stuff with coffee technologies, but you don't have to go above and beyond as a coffee company. You could just, and as a cafe and a bakery, you could just slang soy egg breakfast sandwiches that are all pre-made off-site and old by the time they get there, and you could sell, watered down chemically coffee, but you choose to go above and beyond. So that's why we commend you here at the Coffee, Health, and Science Podcast.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. You could. Life is short, though. Why would you? Why would you ever do that?
Why would you ever drink bad coffee? Only when you have to. Only when it's the only coffee available.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Listen, man, this is a great episode. Here we are already at the top of the hour. OldSoulCo.com. Again, NorCal, if you're in the area, if you live in the area, go check out Old Soul. Go in there and tell them that you heard about him on the Coffee, Health, and Science podcast. That I'm sure that would make their day. You'll see Jason in there. And what else you got, man? You said you got some new locations opening up. You just doing your thing, working on Mighty Peace and all that. Any other news before we wrap it up?
I would just say, news-wise, I think it's just at the end of the day, a lot of people are rolling back, and I understand it. I think in 2022, man, we have to, in our mindset, Tim and I's mindset is, you got to roll forward. We've had a lot of tough times throughout the history of the world. And at some point, you have to move, you have to take steps forward. The only way it gets done is you have to show up every day. And you have to show up even when you don't want to. And you have to live to the ideals and go for it.
We're rooting for you.
That's my closing thoughts, brother.
I love it. It was beautifully said. And we are rooting for you here at the Coffee, Health, and Science podcast, I must say.
You know what, brother? You don't have to worry about us, dude. Me and Tim are like, it's like the Beth Dutton or whatever the episode of Yellowstone was. Daddy, when the nuclear bomb hits, there's going to be two people. There's going to be me and the cockroaches. We're all good, dude.
There's the mic drop moment. I absolutely love it. One more time, oldsoulco.com. And that is all for today, everybody. Coffee, Health, and Science podcast, of course, on Spotify, everywhere, wherever you're listening. Hit subscribe. That's all for today. This is Jason from Old Soul and Jordan River signing off saying, have an extraordinary day out there, everybody. And we'll see you next time on the Coffee, Health, and Science podcast. Bye-bye.